And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. I'm your pal Dan L. This is my channel. I might be related to Cal L. Today's video is entitled Murdering Darwin. Let me spell it for you. Murdering, murdering Darwin, Darwin, as in Charles Darwin. And the human race, sometime in the middle of the night when no one was looking, murdered Charles Darwin in the last few decades. What are you talking about? Well, let's go back to the beginning. Charles Darwin in the 19th century. Charles Darwin is a biologist, a scientist, and he comes up with, I believe, a book called Natural Selection of Species, something like that. You can go look it up. You can go read a biography on him. You can go look up what his accomplishments were. But the point is, Charles Darwin is the father of modern evolutionism. Is that a word? Anyway, he's the father of evolution as we understand it today. Now, were there people before Charles Darwin who speculated about evolution? Sure. But he did a great job of coalescing a lot of ideas and his own observations and putting them down scientifically in a book, and people bought into it. And people said, I believe in the scientific method. He used the scientific method, and we now know that evolution is the accepted description of how human beings came to exist in the first place. It wasn't God, it wasn't creationism. And by the way, I want you to know something. Yes, evolution as a theory is much better than creationism, but there's still holes in evolutionary theory. Evolutionary theory is good. It is scientific. It's not perfect. There are problems with it. But do I subscribe to evolutionary theory over creationist theory? Yes, I do. And do I respect Charles Darwin? You better believe I do. Am I a science denier? No. I'm a science believer. I'm a science follower. I'm a science respecter. I respect science. I respect the scientific method. And that's what do you hear me say in almost every video? Logic? Well, if you are someone who respects science, someone who has an allegiance, a reverence for science, then you have a reverence for logic. Those two things go together. Those two things are closely related to each other. So anyway, but the irony is all the people who've adopted the phrase science denier, you're a science denier. I'm not. I'm all about the science. You are. Those same people murdered Charles Darwin. Now, okay, get to the point, stupid boy. I don't want to hear you yammering on without getting to the point. The point is the I'm sorry, was it The Origin of Species? Maybe that was the name of the book. Anyway, his book, The Origin of Species, was about natural selection, and natural selection is about survival of the fittest. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The people who tell you that they believe in science, they believe in the scientific method, and that's good. People should believe in science. They should believe in the science. They should believe that science is the pathway to knowledge and wisdom. And wisdom is much more important than knowledge is. But both of those things are important for the advancement of humanity and for the survival of humanity. Anyway, so survival of the fittest. What does that mean? That means Mother Nature has decided the best way to ensure not just life, the continual existence of life, but for biodiversity is survival of the fittest. The strongest among every species of life will be the ones to survive because they are the ones who figured out how to handle the hardship of survival, how to handle the randomness of the universe. The universe is a random, unforgiving, cold, unfeeling place most of the time. And so the universe puts great demands on life for survival. It's hard to survive. If you don't believe me, go observe creatures in nature. Seriously, spend some of your time and go watch insects, watch butterflies, watch spiders, watch centipedes. Or go watch birds. Go watch coyotes. Just go watch nature. Go observe nature. Life is incredibly hard. And the coyotes that survive, the wasps that survive, the scorpions that survive, the oak trees that survive, these are the fittest of their species. All the creatures, whether it's plant life or whether it's animal life, the creatures that survive are the ones that are the strongest, the hardiest. You've heard the phrase, only the strong survive. Well, that's not entirely true, especially among human beings. Um, in fact, when you look around Western, maybe this is true in the East, by the way, but when you look around Western self-governing societies, what do you see? You see fat people an explosion of people who are so fat and so unhealthy, but yet they continue to survive. They live long lives. People who are sometimes, well, yeah, you're talking about Donald Trump. He's a big old fatso. He should have died from heart attack. But yet Trump isn't afraid of COVID-19. He was out there for the last 6, 7, 8 months, being around people. He got COVID. He recovered a few days later. So he's fit. He was fit enough. He was healthy enough to get COVID and survive it. And he's in his 70s. No, he's unfit. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he was hiding in the basement for 6 months. He's terrified of the flu. That's what COVID-19 is. It's the flu. So he was terrified. Why would he be terrified of the flu? Because he's an old, frail, broken down, mentally incompetent individual, and he knows it. So he's terrified of any disease. And by the way, take a look at the recent election. You may see, well, that's a perfect example. Survival. No. Joe Biden, between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, tell you what, first of all, if they had a physical altercation, a fist fight between them, I'm going to tell you right now, Trump's going to win that fist fight. I'm serious. You may think Biden's a badass tough guy. He's not. He's a frail, old, pathetically weak individual. All of his masculinity is gone. All of his cognitive abilities go. Not. I went too far. I was hyperbolic. Most of his masculinity, most of his cognitive skills have left him. They're diminished. They have faded away. And it's because of the erosion of time. The longer you live, the weaker you get. But somehow Trump wasn't afraid of disease, and I promise you, he wouldn't be afraid of a fist fight with Joe Biden. But Joe Biden has been down in his basement sheltering. I don't know if he's been in the fetal position sucking his thumb, but he's definitely been afraid of microorganisms. And when you listen to him, when you pay attention to Joe Biden, his cognitive ability, there's no way you can scientifically conclude that his cognitive skills are superior or healthier than Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I don't listen. I stutter myself. I don't mind people stutter, but he can't get through a sentence without getting lost in the middle of the sentence and going off. And he'll say things like, "And we hold these words the thing." And you're like, "What? You mean we hold these truths self-evident that all men are created equal?" So you couldn't even remember that part of the founding documents? You had to get lost halfway through that sentence? That's who Joe Biden is. I pledge allegiance to, well, the thing. There's the thing. You pledge it in allegiance, and it's the thing you do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. You can't get through that. So that's who Joe Biden is. In the election, the 2020 election for the presidency, it wasn't survival of the fittest. It was survival of the weakest. There was Donald Trump, who was stronger than Joe Biden physically. And by the way, I'm also including, you may not, but I'm including, he's physically stronger than Joe Biden. He's emotionally stronger, psychologically stronger, mentally stronger, spiritually stronger. He's stronger than Joe Biden in every way. And yet, if you believe the polls and if you believe the voting outcome, I don't believe the polls but if you do, if you believe the polls and voting outcome, the majority of people decided to pick Joe Biden, and so that election's more proof of survival of the fittest, but it's not. It's proof of the opposite of that. That the United States of America and almost all of the Western first world countries no longer believe in survival of the fittest. Of all of them, Germany, France, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the USA, United Kingdom, all of them have murdered Charles Darwin because they don't believe the best among their society should rise to the top levels of government. They don't believe in survival of the fittest. They believe in survival of the whiniest, survival of the crybabies, survival of the most infantile. They don't believe Western society, and this is why Western societies are now being dominant and are going to lose I don't know about the super long-term future, but in the immediate future, the West is losing out to the East. And ironically, the East also aren't big fans of survival of the fittest, though some of them are. There's enough of that methodology or enough of that belief system in the East that they're now beating up on the West. But in the West, in the USA, if you take a look at the average person at the mall, really overweight, and you're like, well, they're going to live a lot. You're right. People who are really overweight are going to live a lot, but not because in a natural setting they would. If you're 100 pounds overweight and you're living in the West, you would naturally die before people who are healthier than you are. But that's not how it works because we prop them up. We don't believe in Charles Darwin's natural selection. We believe that human beings have a better way of selecting who's going to live and die, that we're smarter than Mother Nature, and we're not. We've never been, we never will be. At least, now I realize I said you can't predict the future, but I'm going to say, in my personal opinion, the Homo sapiens will never be smarter than Mother Nature. But regardless of whether I'm right or wrong, it is a fact that a Western society has gotten fatter. We've gotten more of the we have all we've got peanut allergies, and we've got high blood pressure and high cholesterol. We have all these health conditions. We're hurting ourselves. We don't care about our own fitness. We don't care about our own mental fitness. We don't care about our lung fitness, our cardiovascular fitness. We don't. And by the way, am I perfect? No, I need to work harder on my own physical fitness, but I'm also not going to lie to you and say that just because I don't eat all the foods that I should, I don't exercise as much as I should, I don't eat the way that I should, but just because I don't do that, I'm not going to lie to you and say it's a good thing. When I eat foods that I shouldn't eat, that doesn't make me right. It makes me lazy. It makes me stupid. When I don't exercise enough, so the point is, I do actually, and I respect Darwin so much that I'm not going to lie to you and say survival of the fittest. Well, that only applies to everything except human beings. Every other life, every other species of life on the planet has to abide by the rules of survival of the fittest, except for human beings. I don't believe that. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you something which scientifically is untrue. Human beings also are subject to not just Darwin's laws, but really it's Mother Nature's rules. Mother Nature's rules, which is the most fit among you will be the ones that survive and pass their genetic material into the future. But yet we're trying to undo that. If you look at all the policies, all of the institutions, all of the rules and regulations in modern society, we're trying to undo Mother Nature's rules of law, survival of the fittest. You know, um, I don't mind. It doesn't have. Don't get me wrong. We can have compassion, but we're encouraging we if Biden takes office in January, we just promoted one of the weakest members of American society into the most powerful position. It's so we now know the perfect illustration of what we're going through, of what we're doing to ourselves. We just put probably one of the worst people you could put into the presidency if he makes it. We don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it there, but if he gets sworn in January 2021, it wasn't survival of the fittest which got Joe Biden to the most powerful position on earth. It was survival of the weakest. And if humanity devotes itself to murdering Charles Darwin, and I think we've murdered him. Well, he's already dead. Well, we've murdered his memory. We've murdered his scientific accomplishments. So if we continue to murder the greatest scientific accomplishments in history, and Charles Darwin is one of those people who helped us in a huge step in our scientific understanding of the universe, if we murder the legacy of Charles Darwin, we're committing suicide. So something to think about. Happy thoughts for this holiday season. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you come back and you have a physically, spiritually, and mentally fit day. Bye bye.